Hey Reddit lovers, imagine trusting your husband for 15 years only to find a receipt that exposes a complete double life. We are talking secret debt, a second family, and an ending you won't see coming. Let's dive in. Am I the asshole for freezing our joint bank accounts after I found a receipt in my husband's car? I am a 42-year-old female and my husband Dave is 45, and we have been married for 15 years with two beautiful kids who are 12 and 10. And honestly, I thought we had the perfect life. Dave works in high-end pharmaceutical sales, so he travels quite a bit for work, usually about 1 week every month, which is hard on the kids, but we always made it work because the money was good and allowed me to work from home as a graphic designer. I handle most of the household finances, like paying the mortgage and the utilities and buying groceries, while Dave handles the investments and the retirement planning. So we have always been comfortable, or at least I thought we were comfortable. Last week, Dave came home from a business trip in Chicago and he was absolutely exhausted, so he barely said hello to me or the kids before he went straight to sleep and left his suitcase sitting in the middle of the hallway. I decided to be a good wife and unpack for him so I could get a head start on the laundry because I know he hates waking up to a messy house. I opened his suitcase and started sorting the clothes, and while I was emptying the pockets of his dress pants, I found a crumpled receipt that I almost threw away without looking at it. But something caught my eye, so I smoothed it out on the counter and saw it was a receipt for a high-end jewelry store in Chicago, dated from just 3 days ago for a diamond tennis bracelet costing $4,000. My heart literally stopped in my chest because I do not own a diamond tennis bracelet, and my birthday passed 2 months ago, and our anniversary isn't until December. So I stood there staring at the paper, trying to make sense of it. I thought maybe it was a surprise gift he was hiding. But $4,000 is a huge amount of money for us to spend without discussing it first, especially since we just talked about saving for a new roof. I immediately went to my computer to check our joint savings account online, expecting to see a large withdrawal, but when I logged in, the balance was completely normal and showed no large purchases. I checked our joint credit cards, and again I saw nothing, which confused me even more because money doesn't just appear out of thin air, so I started wondering where he got $4,000 to drop on jewelry. I didn't sleep at all that night, lying next to him while he snored, wondering if I was crazy or if there was something going on that I was too blind to see. The next morning, after Dave went to work, I waited until his car pulled out of the driveway, and then I went into his home office knowing I shouldn't snoop, but feeling like I had no choice. I went through his desk drawers and found nothing but old pens and work papers, so I checked his old filing cabinet in the closet, which is usually locked, but today it was slightly open. In the back of the bottom drawer, taped underneath the hanging folder, I found a thick envelope containing a bank statement for a credit card I didn't know existed. The statement was in his name, but the billing address was a P.O. box in a town 30 minutes away, and when I opened it, I felt like I was going to throw up because the balance on the card was $25,000. I sat on the floor and read through the transactions, which were insane, including toys that my kids never saw, and women's clothing from stores I don't shop at, and grocery bills for a household in Chicago. But the worst part was seeing a recurring payment for rent on an apartment in Chicago every single month for the past 3 years, which meant his business trips were not just for business, and he was living a double life. I was shaking so hard I could barely hold the paper, realizing that he was paying rent for an apartment while telling me we needed to cut back on our vacation budget. I called the bank immediately, and since my name is on our main joint accounts, I asked them to freeze everything immediately, telling them I suspected compromised security because I wanted to make sure he couldn't move any of our actual savings to cover his secret tracks. When Dave came home that evening, he tried to stop for gas, and his card was declined, so he called me in a panic, asking why the accounts were locked, but I just told him to come home. I was sitting at the kitchen table with the receipt and the credit card statement laid out in front of me when he walked in, and the moment he saw the papers, his face went completely pale. He didn't even try to deny it, or make up a lie. He just looked at me and said, "I can explain," which is the classic line of a guilty man confirming all my fears. I didn't scream and I didn't cry. I just told him to get out of my house immediately and told him I froze the assets and I will be speaking to a lawyer in the morning. He blew up at me screaming that I had no right to freeze his money and that I was overreacting before hearing his side, claiming I was being financially abusive by cutting him off from his own salary. He packed a bag and left and is currently staying at his brother's house, but now his family is blowing up my phone. His mother called me saying I am an asshole for leaving him with no access to money and kicking him out without a proper discussion, and telling me that everyone makes mistakes and I am ruining our family over a misunderstanding. So Reddit, am I the asshole for freezing our accounts and kicking him out immediately without waiting for his explanation? Update 1. It has been 2 weeks since my original post and my life has turned into a nightmare. But thank you to everyone who told me to get a lawyer because I did exactly that and it saved me. My lawyer advised me to keep the accounts frozen until we could get a court order, which we now have, so he is stuck living off his brother's charity. But here is the big reveal that makes this whole thing so much worse, because I hired a private investigator to look into the Chicago address and the so-called business trips. The investigator came to my house yesterday with a manila envelope and looked at me with pity before handing it over. He found out that the apartment in Chicago is occupied by a woman named Sarah, who is 35 years old, and she has a 3-year-old son living with her. The timeline matches perfectly because Dave started renting that apartment 3 years ago, just around the time the child was born. The investigator managed to get photos of Dave entering the apartment and using a key. And this is the part that broke me. He got photos of Dave playing in the park with the little boy. I stared at the photo of my husband pushing a swing for a child that wasn't ours and realized the boy looks exactly like Dave, having the same eyes and the same smile. So Dave didn't just have a fling or a one-night stand, he has a whole second family that he has been using our money to support for years while telling me we needed to be careful with our grocery budget. I confronted Dave with this information during a meeting with our lawyers because I didn't want to be alone with him. When we showed him the photos, he didn't even try to lie anymore. He just put his head in his hands and broke down crying. But he wasn't crying for me or our kids, he was crying for himself because he got caught. He admitted everything, saying he met Sarah at a conference 4 years ago and she got pregnant, and instead of doing the right thing and telling me he decided to live a double life to be a good father to both families. The $4,000 bracelet was an anniversary gift for her because apparently they celebrate the day they met. But the worst part is that the Reddit comments were right about his family because it turns out his brother and his mother knew everything. His brother, where he is staying right now, has met Sarah and the child, and his mother has visited them in Chicago multiple times. They kept this secret from me and my children for 3 years, smiling in my face at Christmas and birthday parties, while knowing my husband had another family in a different state. I felt like I was going to pass out when I learned that, because these are people I have cooked for and cared for and loved for 15 years, and they betrayed me just as much as he did. I have gone no contact with his entire family, blocking their numbers and social media, and I told my kids that Dad and I are having serious problems and he won't be living here anymore. I haven't told the kids about the other child yet because I don't know how to destroy their image of their father without traumatizing them forever. Dave is now begging for forgiveness, sending me emails saying he will leave Sarah and that it was a mistake that got out of hand and he loves me and wants to fix this. He even had the audacity to ask me to unfreeze the accounts because he can't pay the rent for the Chicago apartment and Sarah is threatening to sue him for support if he gets evicted. I laughed in his face, telling him that is not my problem, and my lawyer is going for everything including alimony and child support and full custody because I am not letting that man near my money ever again. But now I am facing a new problem because Sarah contacted me after finding my number somehow and called me crying, saying she didn't know he was married. She thought he was divorced and just co-parenting with a crazy ex-wife, which is how he described me to her, so she wants to meet to figure this out for the sake of all the children. Update 2. It has been 3 months and the divorce is almost finalized, so I wanted to give you guys one last update because things got legal and very messy. I decided to meet with Sarah despite my friends telling me not to because I needed to look her in the eye and know if she was part of the scam. We met at a coffee shop in a neutral town and she looked exhausted and terrified holding her son, who really does look like a mini version of my husband. It turns out Dave lied to her just as much as he lied to me, telling her he was a wealthy investor, which is why he could travel so much and why he couldn't live with her full time. He showed her fake bank statements to prove he had millions in assets, promising her a big house one day. When I froze the accounts, his house of cards collapsed because my forensic accountant found that the debt wasn't just $25,000 on one card. Dave had taken out loans in my name by forging my signature on documents I never saw, and he had even taken out a second mortgage on our house that I didn't know about. He was drowning in debt trying to maintain 2 households and a fake rich guy lifestyle for Sarah, and he was using new loans to pay off old loans. Because he forged my signature on bank documents, This moved from a civil divorce case to a criminal fraud case, and I decided to press charges. I wasn't going to let him ruin my credit and my future just because he couldn't keep it in his pants, so I gave all the evidence to the police. Dave was arrested last week for fraud and identity theft and grand larceny, and his company fired him immediately when the news came out because they don't want a thief working in sales. His family tried to bail him out, but they couldn't afford it because apparently Dave had borrowed money from them too and never paid it back, so he is sitting in jail awaiting trial. The most satisfying moment was in court during the arraignment when Dave looked at me from the defendant's table and mouthed, "Help me," with tears in his eyes. I just looked away and stared at the wall because he did this to himself, and I have no sympathy left for him. As for the assets, since I can prove fraud, the judge awarded me the house and what is left of our retirement savings, and Dave is solely responsible for all the debt he created. He is looking at real jail time, probably 3 to 5 years, which means he won't be seeing any of his kids for a long time. Sarah is moving back in with her parents after the paternity test confirmed the boy is Dave's, and she is suing him for child support, though she won't get anything since he is broke. My heart breaks for that little boy, and for my own kids who now have to visit their dad in prison eventually and explain to their friends where he is. We are selling the house because it has too many bad memories, and the second mortgage is too expensive for me to handle alone, so we are moving to a smaller place closer to my parents. My parents have been amazing through this, helping me with the kids and the legal fees, and reminding me that I am strong enough to get through this. It is going to be a long road to recovery, but I am free from the lies and the gaslighting, and I am slowly rebuilding my life. Thank you, Reddit, for giving me the courage to freeze those accounts, because if I hadn't found that receipt, I might have lost everything, including my home. I am speechless because Dave didn't just cheat, he built a completely fake reality, stealing from his kids to fund it. The family betrayal is honestly worse because they knew about the secret child while acting like everything was normal, which is unforgivable. OP is a hero for pressing charges, so let me know in the comments if you would ever forgive the in-laws, and do you believe Sarah didn't know? Hit that like button if you think justice was served, and type justice in the comments, and I will see you in the next one.